What up, what up, what up? I'm your humble host, Tone DeShields II. You guys are locked in on your dose of Chalk It Up Sports, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the game. And I am your Philadelphia Eagles news source. As you guys already know, make sure you guys smash that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel, especially if you're new. On top of that, make sure you guys comment below. Make sure you guys please stay engaged. I love talking to you guys. I love reading the comments. I love arguing with y'all. I love finding common ground. So just make sure you guys stay engaged. Make sure you guys continue to smash that like button and make sure you guys continue to support the channel as we grow. Now, I want to talk to you guys about Nick Sirianni's new contract with the Philadelphia Eagles. He just inked a multi-year extension with the team, and we got to be honest about this. This is something we expected. Nick Sirianni was in a contract year, and what a way to capitalize your contract year. What a way to determine whether or not you're worthy of a new deal. There's no other way to do it than winning a Super Bowl. And that's exactly what Nick Sirianni did. I mean, I'm super excited about it. I'm happy about it. I love the fact that the Philadelphia Eagles put their money where their mouth is. And that's something the Philadelphia Eagles do all the time. They always gamble on the right people. They always invest in the right people. And they always believe in paying people who do right by you. And I think when we consider what Nick Sirianni has been through with the Philadelphia Eagles, I think he's earned the right of the extension. But even more so, I think he's earned our trust up until this point. Let's really go from day one. Nick Sirianni was brought in here in 2021. He took over a team that went 4-11-1 the previous season, and he led them to a 9-8 season. Now, prior to that, he got the job at age 40. He was succeeding Doug Peterson, who had already won a Super Bowl with the Philadelphia Eagles. But things kind of fell out of favor with Doug. So when you put all that in perspective, Nick Sirianni was kind of entering a situation where he had big shoes to fill, and he had to kind of carve out his own identity in this situation that was still relatively turbulent. But Nick Sirianni nonetheless came in, and things started off a little rocky, but he ultimately led the team to a 9-8 record in 2021. That was Jalen Hurts' second season in the league, his first year as a starter. And earlier in the season, Nick Sirianni was calling plays, but then eventually he gave play calling to Shane Steichen because he felt as though that would put the offense and the team in a better overall position. And I got to give Nick Sirianni credit for that because a lot of coaches have a hard time putting their ego to the side. And Nick Sirianni has always been a coach that's never led with ego, always been the type of guy to put team first and always believed in pushing people forward and delegating to the right people. And ultimately, the team made the playoffs going 9-8 in 2021, but they did lose to the Buccaneers in dramatic fashion. They actually got crushed. And let's keep in mind, Tom Brady was red hot that year, although his 2022 season wasn't the season that we thought it would be. But Tom Brady was pretty good in 2021. He led the league in passing attempts, passing completions, passing yards, passing touchdowns. Tom Brady was on fire at that time coming off of the Super Bowl season. So honestly, it was hard to even expect the Philadelphia Eagles to win that game in 2021. But nonetheless, Nick Sirianni led a team in his first year as a coach. He led them to a 9-8 record to the wild card round. So he had a playoff berth his first year. Then his second season, he comes back with the vengeance and he leads a team to a 14-3 record. They get the number one seed and they become not only NFC champions, but they make it to the Super Bowl. But they did end up losing to the Chiefs in dramatic fashion. They lost to the Chiefs by 3 points. It was a competitive game. And Nick Sirianni coached that team up until that point. And also, Howie Roseman did an amazing job putting the right pieces on the team, and the coaching staff was intact in 2021 and 2022. So that made all the sense in the world why the Philadelphia Eagles took the next step. And on top of that, Jalen Hurts took a big step at the quarterback position. So Nick Sirianni really benefited from putting his ego to the side, allowing his coaches to coach, and also leaning into the development of Jalen Hurts at quarterback, and also just being the CEO coach. This was the season where he really leaned all the way in at being a CEO coach, and I think it really worked out for him. Nick Sirianni is a motivator. He's a guy that understands people. So that's why Nick Sirianni works in Philadelphia. He's a guy that also coaches the game with a lot of passion, and he speaks and he moves around with a lot of passion, but it doesn't really feel like ego when it comes to Nick Sirianni. It just feels more so like love for the game, passion, and he fears no man. He's willing to have a conversation with anybody. He don't care if you're a fan. He don't care if you're a coach. He don't care if you're a player. He's the kind of guy that's always running into the fire, and I kind of like that about him. And then you get to the 2023 season where things kind of fell off a cliff. Although the team did start 10-1, coming off of that Super Bowl loss, it was still something that the team still had a hard time shaking. It still felt like the team was kind of playing on hollow ground. And then eventually things collapsed from under him. The team ended up going 11-6 after starting 10-1. And a lot of people had questions about Nick Sirianni. A lot of people questioned Nick Sirianni as the future for this team. A lot of people questioned his ability to hire. At the time, he elevated Brian Johnson to be the OC. Brian Johnson was the quarterback coach the year prior. but he elevated Brian Johnson to OC in 2023. He hired Sean Desai and ultimately Matt Patricia to be the defensive coordinators on that team. And it really wasn't a good situation for anybody. The team collapsed. It seemed like the team was disjointed. They weren't really together. A lot of people questioned the effort of the team, but even through all the turbulence, a lot of people still had faith in Nick Sirianni. A lot of the team still had faith in Nick Sirianni. And even between the 2023 and the 2024 season, where he found redemption, people questioned his relationship with Jalen Hurts, right? A lot of people had articles put out there. There was a lot of random stories about Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts really not being on the same page and that there was a rift in their relationship. Now, we ultimately don't know what went on behind closed doors. All we can rely on is articles that were written. All we can rely on is hearsay and anonymous sources. But nonetheless, this team, Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts, whatever they were dealing with, even if they were or were not dealing with something, whatever happened in 2023, they were able to put that to bed because in 2024, this team eventually went 14-3. They got the number 2 seed and they made it from the wild card round all the way to the Super Bowl to dominate in the NFC Championship, to dominate in the Super Bowl, crushing the Commanders, crushing the Chiefs. They even dominated the Green Bay Packers, if we want to be technical about it. And then the closest game they had in the playoffs was that Rams game. But Nick Sirianni has just been a phenomenal coach all throughout those situations. The first 4 weeks of the season, things were a little murky. Jalen Hurts had some turnover issues. You had a new coaching staff with Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio taking over the offense and the defense, respectively. And you had a lot of new guys on the team. There were some growing pains that needed to happen in those first 4 weeks. But then the Eagles got the bye week in week 5. And then everything was history from there. They went on a crazy win streak. And they just had an amazing run throughout the playoffs, a dominant run in the playoffs, one of the most explosive playoff runs we've seen from an offensive perspective, and one of the most dominant runs we've seen from a defensive perspective. Nick Sirianni is at the head of that. Nick Sirianni is the face of that. And you got to give Nick Sirianni credit for being able to manage all the personalities, for being able to manage all the talent, being able to manage the coaches, and being able to deliver the right message at the right time. There was many times where things could have went off the rails this season in 2024. There was issues between Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown, so we think. There was issues with BG and how he felt about the situation, right? Some people questioned the passing game. Some people questioned Jalen Hurts, right? There were so many things going on with this team off the field, on the field, the season before. There was the specter of the 10-1 start and the 11-6 collapse. There was the specter, there was the phantom that was hovering over this team from the 2023 season, and everybody was waiting for them to fall off the cliff. Everybody was waiting for Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts, and his team to just collapse. And Nick Sirianni managed to keep things on the rails. And what I love about him the most is not only the passion, not only the energy, not only the commitment to his players. I love somebody who's willing to learn, willing to grow, and willing to look at themselves in the mirror and say, you know what, I wasn't doing it right before. I'm going to do it this way this time. And this is what happens. This is what it takes to be a Super Bowl champion. This is what it takes to be a good head coach, a great head coach in the NFL. When you think about Nick Sirianni's resume, 9-8 in 2021, 14-3 in 2022, 11-6 in 2023, 14-3 in 2024. That's a 48-20 regular season record. I say again, that's a 48-20 regular season record. And he's 6-3 in the playoffs. Nick Sirianni has won over 70% of his games in the regular season, and he's won over 60% of his games in the playoffs, and he's a Super Bowl champion. And you ask yourself, how is it a guy like this has never won Coach of the Year? That's a different conversation that I really don't care about. Most of the time, coaches of the year don't really do much in the end anyway. We got a lot of coaches of the year winners who ultimately end up getting fired. So I'm actually glad Nick Sirianni doesn't have Coach of the Year. He actually has the best award there is, and that's being a Super Bowl champion. He has the Lombardi Trophy on his resume. So I give Nick Sirianni a ton of credit for making it to this point. I give Nick Sirianni a ton of credit for being able to weather the storm. I give Nick Sirianni credit for being able to manage his roster and being able to make the right decisions at the right time. Like when you lose to Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl in 2022, and then you find redemption in 2024 and beat that same team, that same coach, that same quarterback in the same game under the same circumstances, man, how can you not respect that? Talk about going back to the drawing board and getting right with your guys. So I love everything about the move to extend Nick Sirianni. Again, I don't know the full details of the deal. I'm not sure what the numbers are from a yearly salary standpoint. I'm not sure how many years they gave him. Maybe they gave him 3 more years. Maybe they gave him 4 more years. Who knows? But Nick Sirianni has earned it. And for all those people who want to call Nick Sirianni a doof or a goof or somebody who's just a company man, somebody that's just along for the ride, I vehemently disagree with that. You don't get this far by just being a company man. You don't get this far by just riding the coattails of people around you. You get this far from being an asset. You get this far from being somebody your team could trust. We've seen so many coaches fumble good rosters. We've seen so many coaches fumble good situations. We've seen so many head coaches get to the big dance and they fold because they can't make the right decision at the right time. We've seen that happen on so many different occasions. So I give Nick Sirianni credit for making it to this point. I give Nick Sirianni credit because he's a Super Bowl champion. I give Nick Sirianni credit because he has the highest winning percentage of any Eagles coach in Eagles history. I give Nick Sirianni credit because he's proven it despite adversity, despite people doubting him, and it's straight like that. Make sure you guys smash that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. Do you agree? Do you disagree with the extension? Let me know what you guys think about Nick Sirianni. Is Nick Sirianni the greatest head coach in Eagles history? How much credit do we give Nick Sirianni for being a part of this Super Bowl winning organization? Make sure you guys smash the like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel, and make sure you guys comment below. I'm your humble host, Tone DeShields II, and you guys have been tuned in to Chalk It Up Sports, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the game. And I am your Philadelphia Eagles news source.